We've already discussed paragraph unity and cohesion a bit when we did the reverse outline, where we took a series of paragraphs and we wrote a note on the outside of the paragraph identifying what that paragraph was trying to accomplish. We're going to think more about paragraph unity and cohesion because I really want you to focus on that as you are working. First, I'll talk about the anatomy of a paragraph as I see it. The transition sentence, which is the first sentence of a paragraph, is loaded with responsibility. It has to accomplish so much. So, this is some of what it has to accomplish. It has to move from old information to new information. By that, I mean that readers have been reading what you're saying, and when you get to a new paragraph, they're kind of taking a rest, right? They've taken a rest because the paragraph signals that let's take a break and I'm going to move to kind of building on what I've done. That means that readers need to be reminded of what they read, even though maybe only a millisecond has passed, sometimes longer has passed. But even if only a millisecond has passed, you still want to have readers seeing how an argument is progressing throughout. In addition, the transition sentence, or again the first sentence of a paragraph, has to alert readers to what that paragraph is going to do. It should give you a sense of what's coming in the paragraph. Some readers actually only read the first sentence of each paragraph in order to read really quickly and get a sense of what a project is about. So imagine that some readers at least might only be, and I know this might be sad for you, right? As a teacher, I love to read everything that students write, but anyway, some readers might not have time to read every single sentence, so they'll read the first sentence only to get a sense of the structure of your argument. So the transition sentence also has to offer the main point of the paragraph. And then finally, it has to link back to the larger argument. Even if it does a good job of moving from old information to new information and outlining the main point, it's not an effective transition sentence unless readers can clearly see how this paragraph is going to work in the service of the larger point or purpose of a piece of writing. So that's a lot that the transition sentence has to do, has to accomplish. So the transition sentence is so important. Please focus a lot of time in your writing on that. In addition to a first sentence, paragraphs often also have two other elements, which are evidence and discussion. Evidence is the material that's exemplifying whatever that larger point is, and discussion is how you're making sense of that material and showing readers why that evidence matters to your argument. And I do want to say also that context matters. In a little bit, we're going to look at two examples, one from Colvin and one from Coyle, and you'll see that because Colvin is writing for a magazine, that his paragraphs look very different than Coyle's paragraphs do, and paragraphs do look different from discipline to discipline and from the writing occasions that you see. So please don't think that there's one particular way that a paragraph has to look. It's just a matter of context and making sure that you're aware of the conventions and making choices about how much or little you're adhering to those conventions. Paragraph unity means how well does the paragraph stick together to itself, and how well does the paragraph stick within the larger argument. In order to achieve paragraph unity, you want your paragraphs to have one main point. That can be hard. And I suppose you could make an argument for occasionally having a paragraph that has more than one main point, maybe two main points that are really closely connected. But I think one main point is probably good. Also, to achieve paragraph unity, you want to think about how a particular paragraph works within paragraphs that came before and paragraphs that came after. So you want to connect it to the previous paragraph, to the following paragraph, and then to your main argument as a whole. So paragraphs are like bite-sized pieces of material that you're providing for readers. Here's an example from Colvin, and we can look at how he's working to transition from one paragraph and to one paragraph, and then linking his paragraphs to his main argument. I'll read just the first paragraph in this series. The best people in any field are those who devote the most hours to what the researchers call deliberate practice. It's activity that's explicitly intended to improve performance. that reaches for objectives just beyond one's level of competence, provides feedback on results, and involves high levels of repetition. So presumably, at this point, I can't remember exactly where this occurs in his argument, but I think it's the beginning. It's a whole new section. However, he's outlined earlier some discussion about the best people in various fields and how they've accomplished what they've accomplished. So this is old. This is what I would call old information, right? And that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means readers know where they've been and where they're going. Okay, and then now we're moving to new information. It's what the researchers call deliberate practice, and that's the new information. Here's the explanation of what deliberate practice is. And of course, all of this is also connected to the main argument that Colvin is trying to make about how people become the best at what they do. This next paragraph, you can see with that transition sentence, he's exemplifying again how he's connecting one idea to the next idea. Again, I want to say that this is an example of writing that occurred in a magazine, so scholarly writing might look in some disciplines slightly different than this. Let's take another example with Coyle. Here's the page that we've visited before together. Here we have Coyle saying, "Meet Brunio," and this whole paragraph is functioning as an example of what he's been arguing in this paragraph before. Making progress became a matter of small failures. Meet Brunio. Here's going to be an example of someone who's making small failures. And then sure enough, this is all about Brunio, and he's moving back at the end to showing why this example about Brunio really works to connect it to his overall larger point. Again, the same construction with the next paragraph. Meet Jenny. It's another example. And this also is going to work in the service of showing why practice and focusing on mistakes really does make Jenny better and really does make Brunio better. So as you're working on your own paragraphs and reading other people's paragraphs, do continue to think about very deliberately what your paragraphs are trying to accomplish and how you can help them do what they're trying to do by having a transition sentence that does all of that really important work that we outlined, by having it be very connected to the rest of your project, and by having primarily one main